Mr. Hochberg, I thank you for coming over one more time to explain to my chairman and the members on the opposite side of the aisle what harm they are doing to the American economy and how they are disrespectful of and not recognizing the trade deficit that we have, and how the work that the bank is doing with 2% of our exports in dealing with our competitiveness issue. I thank you for all of that, but what I'd like you to do is to take China and 2 or 3 other countries that give such support to the export industry and talk about how they hope we will not reauthorize this bank, and what this means for their economy and what it means for our economy.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ranking Member. China alone is not a part of any OECD, any part of global framework. So one of the difficulties we have is they don't follow the rules, they're not transparent, they don't follow any guidelines, and they have said point blank they will do whatever it takes to further their exports and further their trade increase. China has up to 4 different export credit agencies that actually finance their exports, all government-sponsored, all government-backed, with not a lot of transparency and not a lot of accountability. One of them alone, Sinosure, which does insurance long-term and short-term, did about $670 billion in the last 2 years. It took Exim Bank 80 years to get to $590 billion, and they've done that in 2 years. They've also indicated they doubled, and they plan to double again in the next 1 to 2 years. And Korea is also exceedingly aggressive, as is Japan and a number of others, particularly in Asia.
Also, I would like for you to give us some idea of what has been happening in this space where we have been debating whether or not we are going to do reauthorization, and how some have lost faith in our ability to help with our own exports, and how we're losing out already to other countries.
Well, you're going to have Mike Boyle, who's going to be on the second panel, who can speak directly to that. Additionally, a number of the banks that we work with to get working capital loans, overwhelmingly for small businesses, have simply pulled back while they're waiting to see what happens. They don't want to go out there and issue a working capital guarantee and then find the rug pulled out from under them in 14 legislative days from now. So we are finding a reduction in working capital applications. And on insurance, which is the bulk of what our small businesses use, there's also been a reluctance and a wait and see to make sure we're going to be there to really execute those policies.
Also, Mr. Hochberg, on this business about the private sector, who is stopping the private sector from investing, for supporting exports? Who's stopping them? What barriers do they have for not exercising their right to finance and support any business that they want to support? What is this business about? We're somehow interfering with the private sector's ability to finance and support exports.
Well, you're absolutely right. The private sector does a spectacular job, a better job in our country than any other country. And it's the private sector that brings us in when they hit a barrier or a roadblock that they can't surmount. So it's the private sector tries to do it on their own, and when they can't is when they call us in for a guarantee to make sure a loan gets done.
When you refer to call us in, or when you have businesses who come to you and say, I can't get private sector funding, can you take a look at my business and see what you can do to help me, et cetera, et cetera? Who is it you're helping, aside from those that my chairman would have you believe all of the support is going to one company? Are you supporting small businesses, and why do they come to you?
Well, Ranking Member, I was a small business owner for 20 years, a family business. Small businesses always have difficulty getting access to credit. 90% of our clients are actually small businesses, direct small businesses, and 39% of the exports we finance are shipped directly from a small company. Then there's many, many small businesses in the supply chain of some of the larger companies we work with that are carried along in the process. But they come to us, their banks come to us saying, this is a risk we cannot take on. Maybe it's a country, maybe it's the size of the transaction, maybe it's the product category.
And so, does Mr. Henselin have any of these small businesses in Texas?
We have a lot in Texas. We actually have a couple right in his district as well.
Okay, so it is not that some in his district are not benefiting from it. All over the United States, we have these small businesses that are benefiting from XM, not just in California, as some of the other states have these representatives. Is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you. I yield back the balance of my time.